Hello everyone, this is Dalster and welcome to another episode review for Dark Side of the Ring. And in this video, I will go over the episode as it talks about Herb Abrams' life. I have not watched this episode for such a long time, so I don't remember anything at all, sadly. I will rewatch it first, summarize it, and give my final thoughts at the end. Herb Abrams was a huge wrestling fan and wanted to be in the wrestling business. Before being a part of the wrestling world, Herb owned a clothing company in New York City called I'm a Big Girl Now. He never wrestled, so Herb became a wrestling promoter and commentator as he had a lot of money to start a wrestling promotion. WWF at the time was dominating at the end of the 80s until 1990. Herb tried to slay the company as he had a bad disagreement with Vince McMahon, who was in charge of WWF. What happened was that Herb offered Vince a deal, but he refused, causing Herb to want domination against the WWF. Herb went to a wrestling fan convention and tried to scout talent in order to launch UWF, Universal Wrestling Federation. In 1990, the UWF brought a roster of future wrestling stars such as Blackjack Mulligan, Dr. Death, Bob Orton, Mick Foley, and many more. Bruiser Brody was supposed to be in UWF, but was murdered before the promotion started. Herb never wrestled for UWF, but he had a big personality as said by Mick Foley and was also a huge wrestling fan. On October 1st, 1990, UWF debuted on cable television and the show took place in a small venue in Reseda, California as it was sold out. Wrestling for UWF, the wrestlers had a lot of freedom to do what they wanted. As UWF seemed to have a good start, Herb unfortunately squandered a lot of money. One employee named Marty Yesberg, who was a UWF manager at the time, went to a hotel in California to meet Herb. And once he was there, he saw Herb with these girls. Supposedly, Herb had drugs out in the room and was sniffing them through his nose. Marty said that it felt like the room was a P word that rhymes with corn as he saw Herb and these girls messing around. He also said that it was a long night as he slept in the same hotel room with Herb. Herb's goal was for UWF to put WWF out of business as well as putting Vince down. Herb got Andre the Giant in UWF with a long contract as a way to shove it in Vince's face, but Andre ended up going back to WWF as Vince had offered Andre a better deal. It did not make Herb happy as he tried to pull every gimmick from the wrestling book in order to anger Vince. He pushed his wrestlers hard and was frustrated as WWF was beating UWF. By pushing his wrestlers, Herb tried to get heat with his employees through the camera, one of them being Marty, who was also known as the Colonel. UWF also pushed their merchandise, one of those being cookies named after each UWF employee or wrestler such as Herb, having his own cookies called Herb Cookies. Herb eventually launched a pay-per-view in a Florida arena. Lenny, one of the UWF managers, saw the building where the pay-per-view was going to be held at and felt that there was no way that UWF was going to sell out the arena. As part of the pay-per-view was in the process of happening, Herb does drugs such as cocaine and gets into the nightlight party scene. Herb then passed out in his hotel room and a worried Lenny told Herb to get his act together by going to rehab once the Beach Brawl pay-per-view was over. Unfortunately for Herb, the Beach Brawl had many empty seats as the stadium lights had to be turned off in some areas in order to hide the emptiness since the pay-per-view was viewed on television. The pay-per-view was a financial loss and was considered one of the worst pay-per-views in wrestling history. B. Bryan said in the episode that he tried to get his check from Herb one day, and as he goes to Herb's hotel room, he sees naked women and a naked Herb in bed with two piles of cocaine bags. Herb's addiction had worsened and was not taking care of his money as he gave it out like candy. Wrestlers were concerned that UWF was not going to last as Herb was deeply impacted by the downfall of the pay-per-view. In South Carolina, the TV crew had asked Herb for their checks since they were working for the wrestling show, but Herb did not give them the money. The working crew told him that if they did not get the money, they would leave. They ended up calling Herb's bank and were told that he had lots of money, along with 2 bank accounts. The UWF shows were then downsized as they took place in smaller towns while Herb's party lifestyle increased. Since Herb did cocaine and other drugs, the side effects made him feel that he was being watched or recorded on camera as he would go through cushions to see if there were cameras or mics anywhere. Herb's paranoia was out of control as he would look through peepholes and tell the people around him to be quiet as he felt that someone was coming for him. In one incident, he had a girl in his hotel room and a group of thugs suddenly opened Herb's hotel door and Herb ran away from a window naked. Out of nowhere, Herb was able to get a show at the MGM Arena in Las Vegas. Mick Foley said in the episode that Herb showed him these yellow cowboy boots with the UWF letters printed on them, and that the audience would be amazed at Herb's boots. When the event happened, the MGM studio was so empty that it caused Herb to go outrageous and say crazy things to the camera. Herb was also twitching as wrestlers were wrestling and did what they wanted. Lenny said that the pay-per-view was a disaster, but that Herb did not look bothered by it as he seemed very happy that he managed to get his wrestling promotion at the MGM. Eventually, his failure finally took a toll on him as his positive energy started to decline. He was known to brighten the room with his attitude, but his failures got the best of Herb. On July 17, 1996, Herb was recorded for the last time as a friend went to check on him that day. In that video, Herb seemed very happy and healthy. Sadly, Herb would disappear for days. Around that time, Herb had passed away. Lenny said that he cried for 2 hours when he found out about Herb's passing. On July 23, 1996, officers went to Herb's office and found the room destroyed. It could have been possible that Herb did lots of cocaine and snapped. One person in the episode said that Herb was hitting everything in the office with a baseball bat and was chasing hookers away. There was a rumor that Herb was sodomized by the police. Another rumor said that Herb was in a jail cell and had a seizure as he had taken his clothes off. Herb's death became an urban legend. Marty thinks that Herb had faked his death and left the country. When Marty ran a promotion for UWF, he heard that there was a little guy with cowboy boots and that they were supposedly going to sue UWF. Lenny thinks that if Herb was still alive, he would have come to him. Herb's dog was inherited by Steve Ray. B. Bryan said that Herb believed in him as B. Bryan cried while talking about it in this episode. He also said that Herb brought life among his peers. UWF eventually went out of business. Lenny said that the worst thing that Herb had ever done to him was die, and afterwards he hardly talked about it until this episode. Other people in this episode said that Herb was a positive man. Mick said that if Herb was still alive, Herb would be in jail for financial issues, and that he and Herb would have a toast in Herb's jail cell. Interviewers for this episode are Mick Foley, John Arezzi, wrestling historian, Rick Allen, Sonny Beach, Steve Ray, Wild Thing, B. Brian Blair, Lenny Dooge, UWF General Manager, and Marty Yesberg, UWF Manager. I give this episode an 8.5 out of 10. To be honest, I got a little confused when Marty said in the episode that there could have been another Herb as someone saw a small guy with cowboy boots. Maybe it was a coincidence or a dream, but I do think that Herb might not be with us today since he was battling his drug addiction before he passed. This episode was very sad as everyone interviewed for it talked about how great and positive of a person Herb was. And once he passed away, they seemed to still miss him to this day, since this episode had aired. Personally, I felt more bad for Lenny as he went through a lot with Herb's drug addiction, and that his death was one of the worst things Herb's ever done to him. And B. Bryan cried and said that Herb believed in him. It was very sad to hear as I heard a lot of stories from wrestlers during their early days of wrestling in the locker rooms and how they felt pressured and criticized negatively. Facts about Herb is that he was born on July 9th, 1955, around the same week as mine actually, just different years. He was born in Queens, New York. Herb's nickname was Mr. Electricity. The real name of Herb was Herbert Charles Abrams. Herb was the oldest of his siblings, another thing we have in common, and his father was a contract salesman for women's dresses. It seemed that Abrams worked in his dad's shop as well, as he told a photographer named Bill Apter to tell the wrestlers that he would give the wrestlers' wives dresses as part of a compensation when Apter was taking photos of Billy Graham. He moved to Los Angeles and started his first business called Network 9 Limited in 1983. The I'm a Big Girl Now clothing line that Herb started was for plus-size women. In 1989, Herb was married to Murray Lee, and that same year his father had passed away. Herb divorced Murray in 1994. Herb received $1 million from Sports Channel America in order to produce UWF, Fury Hour Weekly. UWF ran television tapings at the Reseda Country Club in Reseda, California. Abrams was sued by venue owners as he had a habit of not paying them. In Fury Hour, Herb was a commentator along with Bruno Sammartino for the first 11 episodes. He was voted Worst Television Announcer in 1990 for Wrestling Observer newsletter. Funny fact, Herb used a jobber on Fury Hour and called him Davey Meltzer in order to get Dave Meltzer mad. I'm pretty sure you guys know who that is, by the way. Herb had divorced by the time he was able to book an event at the MGM Grand Arena. The arena had 17,000 seats, but UWF only sold 300 tickets. He cared for his ailing mother after the failed pay-per-view and never promoted another UWF event since then. Herb died on July 23, 1996 in Manhattan, New York. He had a heart attack while he was in police custody. The police found Herb in his destroyed office, naked and covered in baby oil. He had cocaine and Valium in his system once the autopsy report came out. Herb is laid to rest in New Montefiore Cemetery in West Babylon, New York. He had a girlfriend before he died and owed people lots of money. Herb was also voted Most Obnoxious in 1991 for Wrestling Observer newsletter. A biography of Herb was released in September 2021. Titled Torture Ambition, The Story of Herb Abrams and the UWF, written by Jonathan Plombon. That's all I have for this video. Thank you guys for watching, and take care of your mental health and everyone around you, and I'll try to do the same as well. Comment, like, or subscribe if you would like to, and until next time, bye guys.